I opened the refrigerator and saw only a half-empty bottle. The weak light buzzed, humming against the walls like it wanted to speak. My son cried again. Hoarse. Hungry. The overdue rent notice lay on the table, edges curled from a stain. Beside it, a Walmart receipt bent under its own weight. Cheap 7-Eleven coffee burned my throat and left a metallic taste. Diesel smell clung to my jacket sleeves. Cardboard dust scratched at the seam of my cuff. That bottle will return, not here. In a courtroom. Jessica was still in the hospital, pale under the silent television. The screen showed lips moving without sound, silent laughter filling the white room. I set the alarm for 5:30. Before sunrise. Before discounts vanished. My Wells Fargo account was deep in overdraft. Every swipe carved it deeper. Last week's receipt lay flat on the counter, numbers still sharp in the ink. Formula 2298, Cashier Olivia, 6:14 a.m. I repeated it like a lock code for survival. I typed slow on the cracked phone. This is Caleb Foster. We met at Dollar General. I drove you to the hospital. I need help. Any work? Today. I send it. Turned the phone face down. Waited without waiting. My father David came in with a Tractor Supply bag. Diapers and batteries. Cheap and thin. He breathed in, looked at the window, and chose silence over questions. Sarah followed. Her ring turned once. Twice. She straightened forks already straight and counted napkins like they were bills. I said, "Stay with him tonight." She nodded, eyes down. David raised his eyes, lowered them, and stayed mute. Mark had texted earlier, nothing useful. "Busy today," he wrote. Then silence. I saved it, tagged it for later. That message will scream louder than their laughter. The phone buzzed as I laced my boots. The cracked sole bit the floor. The screen lit with a number I had saved without a name. Come to Mercer Farm. Gate after Buc-ee's. Work today. John Mercer. No greeting. No promises. Just place and time. I told David I'd drive now, then visit Jessica. Sarah asked. Again? Yes, I said. I packed the last clean bottle. A receipt. And tape residue still stuck to my thumb. The Ford floor mat smelled like diesel, stain pressed in since last winter. The keys rattled heavy in my pocket as I checked the door twice. Then the window. Then the door again. I stopped at 7-Eleven for coffee and cookies. The cup lid cracked in my hand. I photographed the receipt, framed the timestamp, and saved it to Set A. Set B lived in the safe. Set C in locker 6. His toast will turn sworn testimony. My answer will be a civil claim. The gate said Mercer in fading paint. A Ford Super Duty idled under the oak. A sedan showed a Houston Med sticker on its cracked windshield. The door opened. A man stepped out. Dark jacket. Whataburger thermos. Steady eyes. He said, "I'm John Mercer." I said, "Caleb." He nodded once and stepped aside. Inside the hall, faded photos of fields lined the walls. Dust sat in every frame. On the table rested a clerk's envelope, a folder marked Emily in black ink. John said, "Tell me what you need." I said, "Formula for my child. Work for my hands." He wiped a plate already clean until it squeaked. "Warehouse first. Then Barnes. Payment tonight," he said. I nodded. Hands still. Breath even. We moved feed sacks until rust tore the skin from my finger. Blood dotted the wood, grain turning dark where it landed. I photographed it before washing at the sink. Water froze against my skin. It burned. John said, "You don't talk much." "I save my breath for work," I answered. He turned back. Emily Mercer entered, badge pinned to her jacket, ranch and supply. She set a Dollar General water on the table. A flash drive. Silica packs. "This might help," she said flat. John said, "We don't do charity. We stand people." "I'm still standing," I said. She smiled once, sharp as a check mark, then left. By evening my hands were raw and steady. Cardboard dust clung to my sleeves. Another Wells Fargo letter sat in my pocket, bold red for late fees. I photographed it under the wall clock, for 22 p.m., frozen on the screen. I sealed it in a plastic zip bag and pressed the air out. This folder weighs more than their clapping. John slid a Tractor Supply card across the table, his hand firm on the edge. Get what the baby needs. Bring the receipt. Pay it back here. I will, I said. He nodded once. Silence finished the talk. I drove toward the hospital. Miami heat pressed against the windshield like another debt unpaid. The wheel felt hot, sticky under my palms. Jessica lay pale but steady in her bed. TV mute on the wall. I placed cookies and water beside her. She picked at tape on the window. I said, I'll fix the bank tomorrow. She nodded once. Closed her eyes. I tapped my band twice and left. The banquet hall will sit empty. Police tape across its doors. Back home, Sarah washed one plate until it squeaked louder than words. David sat by the silent TV, his eyes on the floor, his mouth closed. I opened set A, arranged the day's papers. Labeled set B for the safe. Wrapped set C with silica. The recorder blinked red on the counter. The mat in the Ford still smelled like diesel. Keys rattled once more in my pocket. I placed the Tractor Supply card on the fridge. Note under the magnet, return to John tomorrow. I wasn't begging. I documented. The fridge hummed. The bulb flickered. The doorbell rang. The folder stayed. Their words didn't. The fridge hummed in the dark kitchen. I laced my boots. Frost clung to the windshield of the Ford. The seat groaned under weight, leather cracked and dry. A McDonald's bag lay crumpled near the shifter. The smell of old fries clung to my jacket. That receipt will scream louder than their clapping. At Wells Fargo the clerk smiled without warmth. Her nails tapped faster than her words. She slid another folder across the counter. Same forms. Same forged lines. Same wrong date. The signature cut deeper than needed. The ink bled heavy into the paper. I kept my hands flat on the desk. She said, All verified. All in order. I said nothing. The receipt curled in my pocket. It would outlive her flat smile. The Ford rattled at 60 on US 1. The gas light glowed faint, 20 miles left. A 7-Eleven cup rolled under the pedals. The lid clattered against the floor mat. I pressed it flat with my boot. The clerk's stamp will echo longer than their toasts. At home the driveway was crowded. Mark's sedan crooked against the curb. Emily's purse half open on the dash. Fast food wrappers stacked on the seat. Their laughter carried through the thin walls. Sarah stood by the stove with her back turned. She wiped a clean plate until it squeaked. Her lips moved. No words came. David sat at the table in silence. He raised his eyes, lowered them, and stayed still. Mark came out first, folder in his hand. He said, It's all signed. No more arguing. Emily followed, phone raised like proof. She smiled into the screen and saved the image. They brushed past me without a glance. The neighbor lifted a beer, snapped a photo, laughed, then looked away. Like it wasn't his business. I opened their folder after they left. My name scratched out in black ink. Mark's written heavy in its place. Emily's signature sat beneath as witness. The date, 1 day early, glared from the top. The corner smudged with grease, Whataburger orange, not mine. I thought silence was their shield. It was proof. That page will matter more than their clapping. That night the house held its silence. Sarah twisted her ring until her skin reddened. David turned the television louder, weather without sound. Rain on screen. Dry streets outside. He nodded at nothing and spoke less. The phone buzzed once on the counter. Emily's voice was clipped cold. She said, It's finished. Stay out. Or else. The line cut. No goodbye. I folded their page into set A. Set B waited in the safe. Set C in locker 6 downtown. Every lie copied. Every mark preserved. Their signatures will not hold them. They'll bury them. The fridge hummed. The bulb flickered. A chair creaked in the hall. I waited. I left before sunrise. The Ford groaned awake. Frost cracked across the glass. The seatbelt frayed against my shirt. The floor mats still smelled like diesel. Keys rattled heavy in my pocket. This folder will weigh more than their applause. At the job site, drywall dust clung to my boots. I stepped past it, straight to the locker. Inside, an envelope with my name scratched wrong. No seal. No return. Just more copies. Same forged lines. Same crooked date. The ink cut deep into the paper. Mark's initials rushed and crooked. Emily's name beneath as witness. They thought no one would notice. They were wrong. I thought this was their peak. I was wrong. At lunch I sat alone. Public sandwich stale, meat dry as paper. The coffee filter at home still damp. I remembered it. Laughter carried from another table. One man pointed at his phone. Headline: Family holding secure major transfer. Mark's photo under it. Emily beside him. No mention of me. I kept scrolling. Their claps will fade faster than ink. The county clerk's office smelled of paper and dust. Stacks leaned heavy against the counter. The clerk stamped each page without looking. She slid a folder across the desk. Witness signatures verified. Her voice flat. Her eyes elsewhere. Those stamps will last longer than their laughter. Back home the driveway was crowded again. Mark's car. Emily's sedan. Music spilled through the windows. The neighbor lifted a beer. Snapped a photo. Laughed once. Looked away like it wasn't his business. Sarah stood at the sink. She pressed the cloth until it tore. Her lips moved without sound. David sat stiff at the table. Remote in hand. The screen black. He lifted his eyes once, then dropped them. Silence instead of me. Mark raised a bottle. He said, "It's done. Ours now." Emily leaned into his shoulder. They toasted without me. That silence spoke louder than their words. Later I found a check stub on the floor. Dated 2 weeks back. My name scratched out. Mark's written in heavy ink. Emily's initials below. The corner stained with grease, not mine. This stub will outlast their glass. I folded it. Filed it into set A. Set B waited in the safe. Set C locked in the bus station. Evidence stacked, cold, and steady. They thought silence meant surrender. It meant wait. The fridge hummed. The bulb flickered. A car door slammed outside. I waited. The courthouse smelled of polish and stale coffee. The clock ticked louder than the voices in the hall. Folding chairs scraped against tile, metal legs screeching sharp. A bailiff sipped Dunkin' coffee, steam curling above his cup. A FedEx package leaned against the wall, half torn open. The folder stayed in my hand. Pages heavy. Edges bent. Dates aligned. Every mark copied. Every receipt preserved. This day will return against them. Mark stood at the front, tie straight but hands restless. Emily sat close, purse sipped, strap twisted under white knuckles. Sarah turned her ring, slower than before, skin already red. David sat stiff in the row, eyes forward, mouth locked. Neighbors craned their necks, one raising his iPhone like proof. The clerk read each line, voice flat, words slicing. My name scratched wrong again. Mark's written heavy instead. Emily's signature beneath, her hand pressed harder than needed. The date glared, 1 day early, like a wound. The ink cut deep, bleeding into the paper's veins. The receipt in my pocket would scream louder than their laughter. Mark leaned forward. Teeth tight. He said, "It was business." Emily whispered, "We didn't mean." I stayed silent. Silence spoke louder. The judge lifted another page, her gavel waiting still. Her voice was steady, not rushed, not slow, only certain. Each stamp echoed sharp against the wood, heavier than cheers. Her eyes never lifted toward me. That wasn't needed. Their laughter would be read back in court. Sarah twisted her ring again. It slipped once, then caught. David inhaled, raised his eyes halfway, dropped them without a word. Neither stood. Neither defended. Their silence weighed more than lies. Emily's phone buzzed on the bench, screen flashing quick. She pressed it down under her palm, but the glow lingered. Her purse trembled faint, zipper teeth rattling like loose change. She smiled once, too sharp, too thin. That smile will not hold. The folder pressed heavier in my lap. I thought the set was complete. I was wrong. The clerk coughed once, shuffled papers into neat stacks. The bailiff adjusted his belt, keys jangling sharp in the quiet. A man whispered, "Again?" Another shook his head, staring at the floor. Nobody moved closer. Nobody spoke my name. The gavel waited. Not today. Tomorrow. This gavel will strike harder than their voices. Mark leaned back, false grin stitched across his face. Emily folded her arms, nails biting into her skin. Sarah wiped an invisible stain across her lap, cloth tearing. David pressed the remote in his hand though no TV was near. Every motion was silence. Every silence was betrayal. The judge stamped the final page. The sound cracked sharp across the hall. Chairs rattled. Papers shifted. But nothing erased the weight already set. The fridge hummed at home. The bulb flickered overhead. Keys jingled once in my pocket. They thought the gavel spared them. It didn't. The hall smelled of cheap beer and overcooked meat. Plastic tables sagged under trays of food and sweating Bud Light cans. Publix pies stayed boxed, their labels torn but untouched. Folding chairs scraped whenever someone shifted their weight. This night will not end the way they planned. Mark raised the microphone first, his tie loose, his grin wide. He said, "To family. To what's ours." The room clapped in rhythm, glasses raised high. Emily leaned into him, ring flashing sharp under the lights. Her smile widened. Mine didn't. My plate sat cold, fries limp, grease spreading. Their plates stacked high, piled with meat and bread. I chewed once, left the rest untouched. Hunger wasn't stronger than proof. Sarah passed behind me, adjusting forks already aligned. Her ring turned twice, silver catching the dim light. She whispered words I couldn't hear, then lowered her eyes. David sat still, cap low, staring at the table. Someone said, "Say something, David. It's your son." He didn't lift his head. He didn't open his mouth. Mark lifted the mic again, his voice cutting sharper. He said, "Some work. Some just watch. We know who's who." The hall erupted with laughter, hands slapping on tables. Emily pressed her shoulder against his, smiling into the crowd. Their laughter won't echo forever. It will echo in court. I touched the folder under my chair, its weight steady. Pages stacked in order, dates stamped clean, lines pressed deep. Evidence waited. They didn't know which set I'd bring first. I thought this was their peak. I was wrong. The mic squealed once, and Mark grinned wider. Emily raised her phone and framed me in the shot. That image won't age well. Neighbors clapped harder, proud to belong. Nobody asked questions. Sarah folded a napkin until it tore. She kept the shreds tight in her fist. David rubbed the brim of his cap until it bent. Neither looked at me. Neither moved. Emily folded an envelope like it might hide itself. The crease was sharp. Useless. Paper doesn't forget. Kids ran between tables, spilling soda near my shoes. The stains spread wide across the floor, napkins sticking to it. Shoes dragged through the mess, laughter rising higher. Nobody cared to clean it. Their claps will fade faster than ink. The music cut. One breath held. Forks froze, glasses half raised. Then the laughter returned louder, as if nothing cracked. They thought the microphone was theirs. It wasn't. The fridge hummed steady, same as at home. The bulb buzzed above the counter. A bottle rolled across the floor. Chairs scraped. The night broke. The house smelled of grease and flat soda from last night. Plastic cups leaned together on the counter, sticky rims catching dust. Napkins sagged heavy in the sink, edges soggy with dishwater. Publix pie sat half-cut, its surface cracking at the edges. The fridge hummed steady, louder than words, steady as a witness. Mark's voice lingered in my ears, sharp as broken glass. He said once, "Some work. Some just watch." That line pressed harder than their clapping. I carried it with me. Children rode bikes down the street, tires crunching against gravel. One pointed at our overflowing trash cans and laughed. Pizza box bled grease through cardboard, staining the driveway darker. Flies hovered above the rim, circling like they owned it. Their laughter will echo later, not in this street. I opened the folder, pages stacked in order, corners stiff. Receipts pressed flat, dates printed sharp, signatures cut into paper. Each mark heavier than the last, each stamp colder. This folder would matter more than their glass and noise. Emily called that afternoon, voice lower than usual, almost polite. She said, "Let it go. It's already done." The line cut without goodbye, silence biting harder than words. Not the last call. Sarah stirred a pot that never boiled, her spoon dragging slow. Her lips moved soundless, whispering to someone not present. Her ring spun round her finger, catching kitchen light, spinning again. David sat in his chair by the door, remote in hand. The screen showed weather, rain rolling across the map. Outside, streets stayed dry, sky cloudless. He nodded once at the screen, then looked away. He said nothing. Mark arrived late, tires spitting gravel as he parked crooked. He walked inside without knocking, folder thick under his arm. Emily followed close, smile too wide, purse clutched tight. They dropped their papers on the table like proof. Mark said, "Done deal. No going back." I thought they believed it was finished. They were wrong. Her purse sipped, strap twisted under white knuckles. She was scared. That meant more than her smile. I touched the check stub in my pocket, paper still warm. Ink smeared faint against the fold, edges bending under pressure. Every stroke was theirs, not mine, every lie pressed deeper. That stub would speak louder than their toast. That night Chloe came to me quietly, hands trembling. She whispered, "I heard them. Talking about money. About you." She held a torn page pulled from the trash can. Emily's name glared above Mark's initials, the date crooked. Her eyes searched mine, waiting for an answer. I gave none. Folded it. Kept it. They didn't know where. Sarah wiped the counter again, cloth tearing against clean surface. David held the remote tighter, hand shaking against plastic. Still silence. Still betrayal. I stacked the pages one by one, folder growing heavier. More weight than their laughter, more weight than their glasses. They thought these papers buried me. They buried themselves. The fridge hummed. The bulb flickered. A car door slammed. The night turned cold. The hall was full. The lights were harsh. The silence waited. The courthouse smelled of polish and paper, heavy under fluorescent light. Steps echoed sharp against tile, each one measured and slow. Chairs lined the walls, flags hung faded, corners heavy with dust. The clock ticked louder than voices, steady as judgment itself. I carried the folder in my hand, edges worn, pages thick. Receipts folded tight, stubs tucked deep, signatures pressed like wounds. Every line in order, every stamp cold, nothing left missing. Mark stood near the front, his tie straight, smile stretched thin. Emily sat close, her purse clutched, hands trembling against the strap. Sarah twisted her ring once, twice, eyes buried in the floor. David leaned forward, cap left at home, silence still his shield. The clerk read the case, papers slid across the table fast. My name scratched wrong, their marks bold, dates written one day early. The ink pressed deep, too deep, as if it could hide. I laid mine beside theirs, receipts clean, notarized, certified, aligned. This day will return against them, not me. Chairs creaked behind me, neighbors leaning close, Dunkin' cups in hand. One raised an iPhone, screen flashing before he looked away. Nobody asked questions. Nobody broke silence. That silence said everything. The judge read each page slowly, voice flat, steady as stone. Her stamp hit sharp against the last sheet, echo cutting wide. That sound weighed more than all the laughter, heavier than years. Mark leaned forward. Teeth tight. He said, "It was business." Emily whispered, "We didn't mean." I said nothing. Silence was enough. Sarah's ring spun faster, cutting her skin red. David rubbed his hands, remote missing, words missing too. They chose silence. Again. I closed the folder. Lifted it once. Set it down. Their eyes followed, fear under glass, smiles slipping off their faces. I saved every page. They saved nothing. Tomorrow their silence will break louder than mine. The Walmart receipt pressed flat. Ink still bold. Date wrong again. Always wrong. They thought the gavel was the end. It wasn't. The fridge hummed. The bulb flickered. The gavel struck. The room held its breath. Subscribe if you want more stories about real men who don't scream. They act. Coldly? To the end?